You clicked this video because you saw the title and you assumed this was just another run-of-the-mill celebrity feud where two rich women yell at each other on daytime television. You probably think this is about political differences or a bad day in the makeup chair. But if you look closer at the transcript released by a former host just 48 hours ago, you will realize that the story here is not about a fight. It is about a system. We are going to walk you through exactly how Whoopi Goldberg allegedly maintains an iron grip on The View, not through shouting matches, but through a very specific contractual clause that was kept secret until this week. We are going to show you the timeline of departures from the show over the last 6 years and how they line up perfectly with contract negotiation windows for the moderator. And most importantly, we are going to answer the question of why the network executives at ABC, who are notorious for penny pinching, continue to pay her nearly 8 figures a year, despite declining ratings in key demographics. By the end of this video, you will understand that what you see on screen is a carefully choreographed performance designed to hide the real power dynamic. Let's start with the receipts. We need to look at the incident that triggered this latest wave of leaks. It happened on a Tuesday, specifically during the second segment of the show. To the casual viewer, it looked like a normal interruption. Whoopi cut off a co-host to go to commercial break. We've seen it 1,000 times. But watch the body language of the panel immediately after the cameras cut, but before the feed fully goes to black. There's a moment of genuine silence that speaks louder than any argument. According to a former producer who spoke to Variety under the condition of anonymity, that silence is mandated. The source claims that there is an unwritten rule known on set as the moderator's privilege. This is not just about who gets to speak last. It is allegedly about who has the power to kill a topic entirely if it strays into territory that could damage the brand of the show's biggest star. Now, let's look at what the ex-host actually said. In a podcast appearance that has since been scrubbed from 2 major clips channels, this former colleague described the environment as a dictatorship in disguise. She claimed that the morning meetings, which are supposed to be collaborative sessions where everyone pitches topics, are actually just formalities. The list of topics is reportedly approved by Whoopi and the senior executive producer before anyone else even arrives at the studio. This ex-host mentioned a specific date in 2019 where she attempted to bring up a story regarding a scandal involving a friend of the moderator. She claims she was pulled aside 5 minutes before airtime and told that if she mentioned the name, her microphone would be cut. This is the first time we have heard a specific allegation about technical interference being used as a disciplinary tool. This brings us to the second most shocking realization, which is the financial leverage. Most people assume that all the ladies on the panel are paid somewhat comparably, give or take $1 million. That is mathematically impossible when you look at the budget breakdown for ABC Daytime. Whoopi Goldberg is not just a host, she is an institution. Her salary is estimated to be roughly equal to the combined salaries of the next 3 highest-paid people on the panel. When you have that kind of financial disparity, you do not have a partnership. You have a boss and her employees. We need to go back to the contract renewal negotiations of 2016 to understand why this matters. During that cycle, there were rumors that the network wanted to bring in a younger, more viral-friendly moderator to capture the social media generation. Whoopi allegedly held out until the 11th hour. When the ink dried, insiders suggest she secured not just a pay raise, but creative consultation rights. This means she legally has to be consulted on hiring decisions. If true, this explains why certain co-hosts who challenge her too aggressively tend to disappear after 1 or 2 seasons. Let's talk about the pattern of departures. If you plot the exit dates of the most controversial co-hosts against the timeline of on-air fights with Whoopi, you see a disturbing correlation. It usually starts with a viral moment where the co-host genuinely surprises Whoopi, not a scripted disagreement, but a real, off-the-cuff challenge. You can tell the difference because Whoopi stops looking at the teleprompter and stares directly at the person. Within 3 weeks of those viral moments, reports usually surface in the tabloids about that co-host being difficult to work with. It's a classic public relations strategy. You paint the challenger as unstable or demanding, which justifies their eventual firing. This happened with Jedediah. This happened with Meghan, and now the rumors are swirling that it's happening again with the current lineup. The ex-host who spoke out claims that the public relations leaks come directly from the top, designed to protect the moderator's image as the calm, reasonable matriarch, while everyone else is painted as hysterical. We also need to address the mechanism of the earpiece. Every host wears one. They receive instructions from the control room in real time, but the ex-host alleges that Whoopi has a direct line that is separate from the group channel. While everyone else hears the producer giving time cues, Whoopi is allegedly receiving editorial direction, or in some cases, giving it. There's footage from last year where you can see her tapping her earpiece and nodding while another host is speaking. 30 seconds later, she interrupts that host and pivots the conversation to a completely different topic. The timing is too precise to be a coincidence. It suggests that the show is being edited in real time, with the moderator acting as the on-set director. This control extends to the audience as well. The warm-up comic, the applause signs, the way the camera angles are set up. It's all designed to reinforce the hierarchy. When Whoopi speaks, the camera zooms in. When others speak, the camera often cuts to a wide shot or a reaction shot of Whoopi, visually telling the audience that her reaction to the statement is more important than the statement itself. Now we have to ask the question regarding the network. Why does ABC allow this? Why do they keep paying a premium for a host that generates so much controversy? The answer lies in the demographics. The core audience of the show is women over 50. They have watched Whoopi for decades. They trust her. To them, she's the voice of reason in a chaotic world. The network has run the numbers. They know that if Whoopi leaves, a massive chunk of that core audience leaves with her. She is the anchor. Everyone else is just furniture. This gives her immense leverage. She knows she is too big to fail. This is why, according to our ex-host's source, she can arrive at the studio later than everyone else. She can skip the morning hair and makeup prep if she wants to. She can demand changes to the script moments before air. The rules that apply to the other women simply do not apply to her. Let's go deeper into the specific allegation about the code of silence. The ex-host mentioned that when a new co-host joins, the table is given a very friendly welcome, but they are also given a binder of research. Ostensibly, this binder is about the topics for the week, but implied in the onboarding process is a lesson on the boundaries. You do not interrupt the moderator during the intro. You do not interrupt the moderator during the outro. And you never, under any circumstances, correct the moderator on a factual error live on air, unless the producer specifically tells you to. We saw this play out last month. Whoopi made a statement about a legal case that was factually incorrect. The other lawyer on the panel knew it was wrong. You could see her hesitate. She started to speak, then stopped and looked down at her cards. She chose silence over correction because she knew the cost of embarrassing the boss. Later, the show had to issue a correction, but it was read by the announcer, not by the co-host who copped the error. This brings us to the most uncomfortable part of the story, which is the personal toll. The ex-host described the environment as walking on eggshells. She said that the mood of the entire studio depends on Whoopi's mood. If she walks in happy, it is a great day. If she walks in frustrated, everyone from the camera operators to the interns hides in the break room. This is not just typical diva behavior. It is a management style that keeps everyone off balance. If you are constantly worried about upsetting the star, you're not going to take risks. You are not going to push for better segments. You are just trying to survive. This leads to a creative stagnation, where the show repeats the same safe talking points because nobody wants to be the one to rock the boat and get thrown overboard. Let's look at the hidden money aspect. Beyond the salary, there are perks that the public never sees. We're talking about dedicated security teams, private transportation, and specific riders in the contract regarding dressing room square footage. The ex-host claims that Whoopi's dressing room is essentially a private apartment within the studio complex, while other hosts share much smaller spaces or have rooms that are essentially glorified closets. This physical separation reinforces the psychological separation. Whoopi does not hang out in the hallway gossiping with the others. She stays in her fortress until it's time to perform. This lack of camaraderie off-camera translates to the awkwardness we sometimes see on camera. They are not friends hanging out. They are colleagues who barely know each other, revolving around a sun that burns too hot to touch. The timeline of the last 3 years is critical here. Since the passing of the show's creator, Barbara Walters, the power vacuum has been filled entirely by Whoopi. Barbara was the only person who could check Whoopi's power. She was the only one Whoopi feared and respected. With Barbara gone, there is no referee. The executives are too afraid of losing the cash cow to intervene. This has led to what the ex-host calls the unchecked era. We are seeing longer monologues, more interruptions, and a more aggressive shutting down of dissenting opinions. The show has morphed from a roundtable of diverse views into a platform for one specific view, with a supporting cast of nodding heads. You also have to look at the Sony email leaks from years ago for context. While those are old news, they established a precedent. Executives were discussing talent management back then, and the tone hasn't changed. They treat top talent like volatile assets that need to be managed, not employees who need to be disciplined. This is why the HR complaints filed by former production staff allegedly go nowhere. We found a report from a legal blog that suggests multiple settlements have been paid out over the years for former production staff who claimed a hostile work environment. These settlements almost always come with non-disclosure agreements. That is why you never hear the full story. You only hear the vague hints, the "it wasn't a good fit" explanations. But the ex-host who just spoke out found a loophole. She didn't violate her NDA because she didn't name names or specific dates in a way that could be legally actionable. She described a hypothetical work environment that matches The View perfectly. It was a masterclass in whistleblowing without getting sued. So what happens next? The current contract is up for negotiation soon. Rumors are already flying that Whoopi is demanding another massive raise and even a reduced schedule, possibly taking Fridays off permanently. If the network agrees to this, it cements her status as a part-time emperor. If they refuse, we might see the biggest shakeup in daytime television history. But looking at the ratings, ABC has no choice. They have built the entire show around her personality. Replacing her would require a total rebrand, and in this fractured media landscape, starting from scratch is a death sentence. The ex-host ended her interview with a chilling prediction. She said that eventually the audience will get tired of the lectures. She believes that the ratings are being propped up by hate watchers, people who tune in just to see what crazy thing will be said next. But hate watching is not a sustainable business model. Eventually, the fatigue sets in. We are already seeing comment sections turning negative, even on the show's official clips. The audience is noticing the tension. They are noticing the silences. And now that this host has pulled back the curtain, it is impossible to unsee the strings being pulled. Think about the Hot Topics segment from yesterday. There was a story about workplace toxicity. The irony was palpable. The women discussed it with straight faces, condemning bad bosses and toxic cultures, while sitting on a set that is allegedly rife with both. The disconnect between what they preach and what they practice is becoming too large to ignore. This is the reality of modern celebrity news. It is not about the news itself, it's about the meta-narrative of the production. We have to consider the producer intervention log. This is a document that tracks how many times producers have to step in during a broadcast. In the early days, it was rare. Now, it is a daily occurrence. The producers are constantly doing damage control, trying to steer the ship away from icebergs that the moderator seems determined to hit. This chaotic energy might be good for viral clips on Twitter, but it is a nightmare for the people who actually work there. The turnover rate for junior staff is reportedly high sky. People burn out trying to cater to the whims of the talent. Ultimately, the story here is about leverage. Whoopi Ultimately, the story here is about leverage. Whoopi Goldberg has it, everyone else wants it. And the ex-hosts who leave are the ones who realized they would never get it. They left not because they were fired, but because they realized the game was rigged. You can't win a debate against someone who controls the microphone button. You can't win a popularity contest against someone who has 40 years of movie stardom behind them. The only way to win is to leave and tell your story from the outside. That is exactly what is happening now. The wall of silence is cracking. One brick at a time, the truth is coming out. And the picture it reveals is not of a happy sisterhood, but of a high-stakes corporate battlefield where the casualties are silence, and the only victor is the one with the biggest contract. The next time you tune in, watch the eyes. Don't watch the mouths. Watch where the co-hosts look when they finish a sentence. They almost always glance at the center of the table, checking for approval, checking for safety. That glance tells you everything you need to know about who is really in charge. It is a masterclass in power dynamics, broadcasts live to millions of homes every single day. And now that you know the secret, you will never watch the show the same way again.